The camera drone hovered above the research vessel Odyssey, its polished hull gleaming against the restless Atlantic swells. A low hum carried over the live feed as the broadcast reached millions of screens worldwide. Dr. Marcus Hale stood at the bow, his posture upright, his eyes sharp with a mix of wonder and determination. Salt wind pressed his shirt against a lean frame, the weathered face of a man long acquainted with the sea. He cleared his throat, the microphone clipped to his collar amplifying every syllable with practiced clarity. Viewers across the globe, he began, gesturing to the endless horizon. Today we enter waters where navigation fails, where ships vanish, and where reason itself bends under pressure. The Bermuda Triangle has taken thousands, but it will not take us, not without leaving its secrets behind. His tone was steady, but his hands tightened on the railing as though gripping the line between confidence and fear. Behind him, a taller figure adjusted the settings on a satellite transmitter. Aaron Vance, billionaire philanthropist and technology magnate, carried the air of a man more accustomed to corporate towers than open seas. His tailored jacket looked absurd against the backdrop of salt spray and steel decks, yet he wore it defiantly, as though wealth alone could shield him from the unknown. He caught Hale's eye and offered a grin. "The world wants answers, Marcus. And we'll give them a spectacle. Every legend has a root in truth, and truth sells better than fantasy." Further back, half hidden near the equipment crates, Elias Ward checked the lenses of his camera rig. A survivalist turned documentarian, he rarely spoke more than necessary. His silence, however, never came from cowardice, only calculation. Every motion, every angle mattered. The live audience would not simply see events unfold, they would feel the weight of danger pressing down if he did his work right. He tested the focus on Hale's profile, then on the rolling gray clouds gathering at the horizon. His gut twisted. Storms did not brew this fast without reason. Leaning casually against the rail, a fourth man observed all of it with a soldier's practiced detachment. Lieutenant Daniel Cross, former Navy diver, had scars etched across his forearms and a jaw hardened by discipline. Unlike Hale, he voiced no lofty ambition, no hunger for discovery. He was here because someone had to keep these men alive when their curiosity invited disaster. "Spectacle won't matter much," he muttered, just loud enough for Vance to hear, "if the only footage they get is our wreckage on the ocean floor." The billionaire smirked. "Wreckage sells too, Lieutenant. Though I'd prefer survival." The banter drew no laughter. The men shared a glance, each carrying his own burden of silence. The engines droned onward, steering them toward coordinates infamous for swallowing vessels without a trace. Already, the magnetic compass was erratic, swinging like a drunk pendulum. Hale scribbled notes while keeping his voice level for the audience. "Unstable readings have begun. Watch closely, because every moment forward will matter. We are crossing the boundary." Ward panned his camera across the deck as the air thickened with humidity. The live chat on the broadcast feed scrolled too fast to follow, millions commenting, speculating, mocking, or praying. The world's eyes were on them, but the ocean's gaze felt heavier. As the sun dipped, the first anomaly appeared. The radar screen flickered, lines distorting into shapes that suggested movement too large, too deliberate. Cross leaned over the monitor, his expression tightening. "That's no current. Something's pacing us." Hale pressed against the glass. The sonar returned pings in irregular intervals, as though a massive body hovered beneath them, occasionally circling close before sliding back into the depths. He adjusted his microphone, forcing his tone to remain calm. "To our viewers, sonar has identified an object of significant size beneath the vessel. Larger than any whale recorded. Its movements indicate intelligence or intent." Vance's grin faltered, though he quickly masked it. "Perfect. Exactly the kind of anomaly we're here for. Keep rolling." The ship groaned as though brushed by an unseen hand. The deck shuddered. Ward nearly dropped his rig but caught it in time, the image lurching wildly before stabilizing. A smear of shadow passed under the hull, too swift for clarity, but vast enough to darken the water on either side. Cross's jaw clenched. That wasn't pacing. That was a warning. Hale's eyes flicked toward him. Or an invitation. The feed caught every word, amplifying the tension that vibrated between them. The audience's scrolling messages spiked with theories. Ancient monsters, government experiments, portals to other worlds. None of the men spoke for a long moment, the hum of failing instruments filling the silence like a heartbeat. At last Vance strode to the bow, his voice rising above the crash of waves. Gentlemen, and to our millions of witnesses, whatever dwells here has lived beyond human reach for centuries. Tonight, that changes. We are not here to be cautious shadows in history's margins. We are here to tear open the veil. His declaration carried bravado, but his knuckles whitened on the railing. Cross muttered low enough for only Hale to hear. That kind of talk gets men killed. Hale answered with a quiet intensity. And that kind of silence lets mysteries bury themselves forever. The ocean gave no time for further debate. A violent tremor rippled through the ship. Ward spun his camera downward just as an enormous tentacle, slick with bioluminescent scars, grazed the hull before vanishing again into darkness. The feed exploded with shocked reactions. The crew froze in disbelief, all except Hale, whose breath came sharp but steady. Viewers, you saw that. The legends breathe. The ship steadied, but the silence that followed was worse than the impact. Ward zoomed into the water, but nothing moved below, as though the sea itself had swallowed its proof. Vance clapped Hale on the back, too forcefully to be genuine. There it is. History. And we're only at the beginning. Cross scanned the waters, muscles coiled like springs. Beginning, sure. But of what? The words lingered as thunder rolled across the sky. Lights flickered on deck, and the compass spun uselessly. Every man stood aware, their breath shallow, that the triangle had acknowledged them at last. And somewhere beneath, something vast and watching waited for their next move. You said. The storm thickened overnight, pressing its weight against the Odyssey as though the sky itself wished to drown the vessel. Lightning split the horizon, illuminating jagged waves and the strained faces of the men aboard. Dr. Marcus Hale stood by the sonar console, lips drawn tight, watching the screen pulse with signals too irregular to be dismissed as natural. Each blip marked something colossal moving beneath them, weaving in and out of range, never retreating fully. Aaron Vance appeared at his side, a gleam in his eyes that no storm could dim. This is it, Marcus. Proof beyond doubt. We go down there tonight. The world has been waiting for spectacle, and I refuse to let the opportunity slip into myth again. His voice carried the sharpness of command, but his hand trembled against the railing, betraying nerves he would never admit aloud. Lieutenant Daniel Cross crossed the deck, his boots thudding in rhythm with the rocking vessel. He stopped short of them, his presence a blunt contradiction to Vance's bravado. We're not diving blind into those waters. Half the ship's systems are already unstable. Any deeper and you'll be lucky if the cameras survive, let alone us. Vance sneered. I didn't bring you here to play nursemaid, Lieutenant. I brought you to protect us while we do what history demands. Hale raised a hand, his tone careful, threading reason through the sparks of conflict. The risks are real, but so is the opportunity. Daniel, if we retreat now, we'll lose the trail. And if we wait, whatever's down there may not wait for us. We need to confirm what we saw. His eyes were steady, not reckless, yet something in them burned, the same hunger that had drawn him into years of perilous expeditions. Elias Ward stood at the edge of the conversation, camera perched against his shoulder, silent but watchful. He kept the live feed running, though most of his attention was fixed on the men themselves. The audience could see every twitch of fear and spark of ambition, every raw edge of humanity that made the broadcast more than science. It was survival made visible. When the storm abated enough to lower the submersibles, the men prepared with little ceremony. Hale and Cross climbed into one vessel, its metal sphere creaking as it sealed shut. Vance and Ward occupied the other, the billionaire rattling off sound bites while Ward checked every angle of his camera. The hatches locked, and the descent began. The ocean swallowed them in silence, broken only by the whir of thrusters and the groan of pressure against steel. Hale leaned over the control panel, guiding their path downward, while Cross kept a firm hand on the weapon system, eyes flicking constantly to the sonar display. Depth markers ticked past. The sea shifted from blue to black, then to a void so absolute that even their floodlights seemed swallowed by ink. In the second submersible, Vance spoke continuously, his words sharp and rehearsed. To our viewers, this is the first time humanity has stared directly into the abyss of legend. History books will mark this night as the end of superstition and the dawn of revelation. His voice cracked once, barely, but Ward caught it through the lens. The camera captured more than Vance intended, the sweat across his brow, the nervous twitch in his jaw. Ward said nothing, letting the silence of the deep ocean answer where words failed. Suddenly, Hale's voice crackled across the comms. Contact. Bearing north, close range. The sonar painted the shape before they saw it. Then the lights caught it, a wall of flesh drifting into view, mottled skin glowing faintly with streaks of pale luminescence. A colossal squid, its eye the size of a man, turned toward the submersibles. Hale's breath caught in his throat. It's impossible, no species grows to this scale. The audience's chat erupted worldwide. Millions watched the lens of Ward's camera fix on the creature's unblinking stare, an alien eye reflecting the cold light back into their tiny craft. Cross muttered, his voice tight. It's not just size. It's watching us. The squid extended a tentacle, the motion deliberate, almost testing. It brushed Hale's sub lightly, then withdrew. For a heartbeat, it lingered, circling, its body twisting with the elegance of something both predator and sentinel. Then the sea boiled, with movement. More shadows emerged, their forms massive, their tentacles weaving in slow, deliberate arcs. They're not attacking, Hale whispered, as though afraid the creatures might hear. They're studying. Vance's voice cut across the comms, half triumph, half panic. This is it. The triangle isn't a graveyard. It's a sanctuary. These creatures are intelligent. This is what ships saw before they vanished. Not storms, not currents. Ward steadied the camera, capturing the surreal dance of titanic shapes as the squids spiraled around the submersibles. For the first time in his career, he forgot the audience, forgot the performance, and simply stared at the impossible. Then one of the squids struck. A tentacle slammed against Vance and Ward's submersible, spinning it violently. Ward crashed into the side, the camera clattering against the console before he grabbed it again. Alarms screamed through the cabin. Vance shouted into the comms, his bravado gone. We're hit. We're losing control. Hale gripped his console, his knuckles white. Hold position. We're coming for you. His own sub lurched as another squid brushed it, but the force was measured, less violent, almost hurting them. Ward managed to steady the camera, his voice ragged as he spoke directly into the live stream. They're not random, they're choosing. They decide who leaves. His words chilled the men in both subs, echoing what each had already feared but none had dared to voice. Cross toggled weapons control, his voice grim. We don't get them back unless we fight. These things don't give second chances. Hale stared at the circling leviathans, heart pounding. Or, unless we understand what they want. The sub carrying Vance and Ward spun helplessly toward a trench, its lights flickering as static swallowed their comms. The last sound Hale heard before the line went dead was Ward's ragged breathing, and then silence. Darkness pressed closer, and the abyss opened its arms. You said. The trench yawned beneath them like the mouth of some titanic predator, swallowing the smaller submersible that carried Vance and Ward. The comms were filled with static, leaving only Hale's desperate calls unanswered. Cross gripped the controls beside him, eyes locked on the sonar, jaw set with iron. They're gone, either crushed or dragged further down. If we follow blindly, we're next. Hale's gaze stayed fixed on the black maw below. He had no proof, but something deeper than instinct told him the others still lived.
No.
They're not gone. The creatures could have destroyed them instantly, but they didn't. They want them alive, for some reason. His voice carried conviction, but his hands trembled over the navigation system. "We're not abandoning them." Cross exhaled through his teeth, the sound like a hiss of steam. "If this is a rescue, then we do it fast. The longer we linger, the more we play into their game." He adjusted the thrusters, guiding the sub toward the trench. Around them, massive silhouettes slid in and out of view, their tentacles dragging silently across the currents. Watching, always watching. The descent was suffocating. Lights reached only a few feet before vanishing into liquid night. Pressure groaned against the hull as though invisible jaws pressed inward. Then, at last, the other sub appeared, tilted sideways, wedged between jagged stone. Its lights flickered weakly, like a dying beacon. Ward's voice cracked through the static, faint but alive. "We're intact, barely. Something's holding us here. Not rock. Not current. It's like threads." Hale leaned toward the glass, adjusting the beam of light. There it was. Pale filaments stretched across the trench, vast strands gleaming faintly like silk spun by impossible hands. Not natural. Not random. A lattice of webbing anchored to the seabed, holding wreckage, planes, ships, subs, like trophies in a macabre collection. Cross swore under his breath. "That's it. The Triangle's graveyard. Every disappearance, every ghost story, it's all down here." His eyes hardened as he toggled the weapon system. "And we're about to join the display." Before Hale could answer, a shadow loomed. A giant squid drifted closer, its eyes reflecting the sub's lights, its tentacles trailing across the web as though plucking invisible strings. With each touch, the web vibrated, sending ripples through the wreckage. Another squid joined it, then another, their movements choreographed with eerie precision. "They're not just hunters," Hale murmured, voice unsteady with awe. "They're engineers. They build, they collect, and they protect this place." His mind raced. The pattern isn't random, it's ritual. They've been guarding this trench for centuries, maybe longer. To them, this isn't a trap. It's a sanctuary. Cross snapped his head toward him, disbelief sharp in his tone. "A sanctuary built from corpses? Call it what you like, Marcus, but we're prey." The sub shuddered as a tentacle coiled lazily around its hull. "Not crushing, not yet. Testing." The creature's eye lingered on Hale, enormous and unblinking. He felt a strange weight press against his thoughts, as though some alien intelligence peered inside, searching. He whispered, not to Cross, not to the audience, but to the presence itself. "What do you want from us?" The squid released them, but its companions did not retreat. Instead, the lattice began to shift. Vance and Ward's sub, still wedged, was dragged free by unseen currents of tentacles and pulled closer to Hale's. Ward's voice returned in a broken rush. "They're moving us, bringing us together." Inside the battered sub, Aaron Vance's voice cut through, hoarse but still laced with defiance. "Do you see, Marcus? Do you see it now? They're not mindless beasts. They're wardens. They've been the guardians of this abyss since before our kind learned to sail. This isn't an accident. This is order." Cross snarled into the comms. "Guardians? They slaughter without hesitation. Call it order if you want, but that doesn't make us anything more than insects under glass." Hale pressed a hand against the viewport, transfixed by the ballet of tentacles weaving through the wreckage. Each movement was deliberate, not chaotic. "Maybe we've misunderstood. Maybe the Triangle was never a curse, never chaos. Maybe it's control. They allow what enters. They decide what remains." His words carried both wonder and dread, as if revelation and doom had braided together. The sea answered with violence. A sudden strike rocked the hull, alarms shrieking. A tentacle squeezed Hale's sub, the metal groaning, glass cracking at its edges. Another curled around Vance's vessel, dragging it deeper into the web. Ward's camera, still streaming, jolted wildly, broadcasting the chaos to a world glued to every frame. "Enough!" Cross roared, slamming his fist against the weapon's console. He fired, torpedoes streaking into the dark. One exploded against a squid's flank, tearing flesh and staining the water with black clouds of ink. The abyss erupted in fury. Shapes swarmed from the shadows, a storm of tentacles converging on them. Hale shouted, "Stop. You'll provoke them all." Cross's eyes were steel. "We're already dead if we don't fight." The sub jolted violently, alarms howling as the swarm closed in. Ward's voice, distorted but urgent, carried through the comms. "They're not killing us yet. They're forcing us deeper. Look." Through the chaos, Hale glimpsed it. Beneath the web, the trench split further, opening into an abyssal chasm that pulsed with faint light. Not geothermal glow, not natural. Something else radiated there, something old and hidden. The squids moved with purpose, funneling them toward it, like shepherds guiding livestock, or initiates. Hale's voice dropped, half to himself, half to the millions watching above. "They're not just protecting. They're hiding something. Something we were never meant to see." The squids tightened their grip, dragging both subs inexorably toward the glowing depths. Resistance was useless. Weapons flared. Thrusters screamed, but nothing slowed their descent. Cross fought the controls with every ounce of strength, his teeth bared in frustration. Vance's laughter, ragged and unhinged, echoed through the comms. "Yes. Take us. Show us what you guard." Ward whispered a prayer into his microphone, his camera fixed on the widening glow below. The trench swallowed them whole, and the light beneath grew brighter, waiting. The glow expanded into a cathedral of the abyss, a cavern vast enough to swallow cities, its walls lined with bioluminescent flora that pulsed like the veins of a living heart. The squids herded both submersibles into its core, weaving around them like priests conducting a ritual. The weight of pressure and silence was overwhelming, but the greater burden came from what the light revealed. Anchored to the cavern floor were relics of impossible origin, hulls of ancient galleons, aircraft wings fused with coral, metallic structures that no human hand had built. It was not merely a graveyard. It was a vault. Dr. Marcus Hale pressed against the viewport, his breath shallow. "This isn't about feeding. This is preservation. They're not hunters, they're curators." His voice trembled with awe, the culmination of his life's pursuit pressing down upon him. For Hale, the triangle had never been myth but mystery, and now he was staring into its answer. Humanity was not master of the seas, merely tolerated upon its surface. Aaron Vance, face pale and bloodied from the sub's earlier collision, leaned forward, eyes glittering feverishly. "Do you see it? Civilization before ours. Knowledge buried where no man could trespass. They've been guarding this treasure, Marcus. These squids are not beasts, they're sentinels. The triangle is not a curse. It's a warning." His voice cracked into something near hysteria. His fortune, his obsession, all pointed to this moment. If he died, he would die having proved himself right. Lieutenant Daniel Cross, muscles tense against the control stick, forced his voice through the growl of metal under strain. "Knowledge guarded by monsters that kill without hesitation isn't meant to be ours. This isn't a museum, it's a cage. And we're next in line for display." His cynicism was not born of ignorance but survival. He'd seen the ocean take men who believed it merciful. To him, this was no gift, only doom dressed in wonder. Elias Ward kept his camera locked on the unfolding spectacle, his voice steady though his hands shook. "The whole world is watching. Millions of eyes. Whatever happens now will live beyond us." In that moment, he was not merely a cameraman but a witness, burdened with the truth of what he recorded. His silence had always been strength, and here it became devotion, to history, not ego. The squids tightened their spiral. One tentacle coiled around Vance's submersible, dragging it toward the cavern floor. Metal shrieked in protest. Ward's voice broke through the static. "They're singling us out, choosing who stays." Vance laughed, half mad. "Then I'll stay. Let me be their herald. Let the world know they chose me." His face pressed against the glass, as though desperate to merge with the eye of the colossal creature that studied him. Hale's stomach nodded. "Aaron, no. They're not offering you anything. They're removing witnesses. But Vance was beyond reason. He activated his sub's thrusters, slamming against the tentacle in defiance, forcing himself deeper toward the glow. The squid reacted with startling speed, its limbs crushing the sub's frame. Ward's final image of Vance, eyes wild, a grin splitting his face, burned across the live feed as the vessel imploded with a muffled roar. Darkness swallowed it, leaving only shards drifting like ash. Ward's breathing filled the comms, ragged and uneven. "He's gone, just like that." His camera shook but did not falter. Cross's voice was iron. "One distraction bought us a chance. We move now or we join him." He slammed the thrusters forward, wrenching the sub free from the coiling limbs that sought to drag them down. Hale steadied the controls, working in tandem, his mind warring between terror and revelation. The squid swarmed, enraged at the loss of one of their prizes. Tentacles lashed against the hull, the sound of groaning steel echoing through the chamber. Ward's sub, still tethered by threads of the lattice, was pulled violently toward the chasm's edge. His camera caught every strike, every flicker of bioluminescent rage. "Hold on, Elias," Hale shouted, his voice raw. He angled their sub toward the webbing, activating the last of their cutting tools. Blades tore through the threads anchoring Ward's vessel, freeing it just as another strike would have crushed it. The two subs rose together, battered but alive. The cavern convulsed with fury. Dozens of colossal squids surged upward in pursuit, their eyes burning with alien intensity. Cross fired flares and torpedoes, each one buying them only seconds. Hale navigated upward, his body tense with exhaustion, his mind still gripped by the vision below. He whispered to himself, to the abyss that had nearly claimed them, "You're not chaos. You're order. You keep the world safe by hiding the past." Ward's voice broke the trance. "We're breaking surface in 3 minutes. Just keep them back." His camera captured the relentless chase, the live feed broadcasting mankind's desperate struggle against leviathans no myth could do justice. At the last moment, just before breaching the surface, the squid slowed. As though bound by unseen chains, they refused to ascend beyond a certain depth. They hovered there, vast shadows just beneath the waves, watching with eyes that promised both warning and patience. Hale realized the truth. The triangle was never meant for human claim. It was a domain with boundaries, and those who crossed them would be marked forever. The subs erupted into moonlight and storm air. Rescue vessels, alerted by the live feed, closed in quickly. Men rushed to haul survivors aboard. Ward clutched his camera like a relic, refusing to let go even as medics pried at his hands. Cross staggered onto the deck, armor of cynicism cracking only slightly as relief etched across his features. Hale stood last, salt water streaming down his face, his expression neither triumph nor despair, but revelation. Before the cameras, before the eyes of a world stunned into silence, he spoke, his voice carrying across every channel. "The Bermuda Triangle is no mystery. It is no curse. It is a threshold guarded by giants who will never yield it to us. Remember this night, because the ocean remembers us." The feed ended on his scarred, determined face, and the world knew the triangle would never again be dismissed as folklore. It was alive. It was watching. And humanity had been warned.